The light glows in a small cabin in the woods. A small, slight, young man coughs up blood, realizing too late that the wine he is drinking has been attacked. The poisation will allow the mana to stay uncirculated and will be completely gone in a few minutes. Incidentally, in addition to this poisanium, the small, slight man added another word. The hero is alarmed. Doesn't he realize? The war has long since ended, and the United Empire no longer needs his forces. Now his existence is causing problems, and it seems the hero has said he will return to the village to avoid becoming the cause of a revolution. That's exactly right. He's happy to get the blood off his hands. He lives a quiet life, despairing of magic and the sins he has committed. But the threat continues. After everything, he has always feared John. Should one be afraid of one's friends? A hero, an 8th level mage, capable of destroying his friend and the entire empire at any moment. Such a monster cannot be allowed to live. Well, the mage can't forgive him. With those words, Ragnar walks away, leaving John to die, and the house slowly collapses in flames. And the hero is shocked. He's angry at this criminal. How could he have been so trustworthy? Though, in the end, it was Ragnar who turned out to be naive. Every day John lived was full of complaints, but he didn't stop learning magic. Just a simple slash to the heart with a knife fixed with time magic before the evil fully spreads and the hero would be able to survive. Thus, by holding a knife to him, this action becomes his penalties. John is hit hard to the heart, and despite all the pain, reads the spell. At the same moment, the knife begins to emanate mana, and a magic circle appears beneath John. As he stands on his hands, he continues to read the spell. Now time must return. Closing his eyes, memories assault him. The death of a loved one, an encounter with Ragnar, a violent battle at the end of which he is the only one standing. Only black bloods surround the mountains of the dead and him, but the hero suddenly comes to his senses. What happened? His pain seems to have disappeared and his wounds have worsened. The situation is rather strange, but suddenly the heroes are back. It turns out to be a slight woman who is worried that the young man is fine. Can't be his mother, but she died, so the plan worked, although it's possible he just died and met her recently. The hero takes his mother's hand in his and looks around. It's a fairly quiet settlement, full of people. Children line up for inspection and soldiers control the blood. The flag of Ivoria Tora floats in the breeze. Well, it looks like John has gone back 30 years in time. In this world, at the age of 12, all children of the Empire of Greenweaver must perform a test to discover the mages who will become the Empire's pilots. The first thing tested is the presence of magic in the brain. It is responsible for the expression of magic. The second place is the heart. Magic. It is responsible for the creation, circulation, and storage of magic. If a child possesses both types of magic, they are immediately accepted into the Magic Academy. After studying, the child's status in the social sphere corresponds to the aristocracy. 30 years old. The hero seems to have traveled back too far in time. Aeon recalls the very blade that spells the language of dragons. He still managed to use the magic of time. The young man has stretched his life to study it, so that one day he might be able to avenge his sins and wash the blood of the fallen from his hands. However, in today's situation, he simply cannot look Ragnar's actions in the eye. John thinks back to himself in the blood at battlefield. After all, he did everything for his friend. He killed his enemies out of loyalty. And what was the result? The price was death. Ragnar simply used him. Well, things would be different now. John was ringing with someone. It's the soldiers. They're inviting the new kid in for an inspection. The hero will still return to his friend, but for today he must pass a test. After all, his magic level is 8th or even higher. As he approaches the tent, the lad meets a guard to whom he allies himself. His name is John Page from the village of Morrigan. The soldier recognizes the young man immediately. He is Vanessa's son. Then let him pass, but without the necessary questions for the mage. The boy gives the soldier one last look and steps inside. Once inside the building, John sees a mage who is tired to death. Damn, how much more should he check out? The commander standing not far away is ready to give him instructions. It's not even half just for today. And then John enters the room. The mega immediately changes his expression, puts on a smile, and asks John to enter the room. Well, the first thing to do is get your head checked. Spellcaster will send John some mana. He may feel tense, but that's perfectly normal. He shouldn't be worried. Great. Now Mega asks John to roll over quickly. Mana is present in his brain, which means life can change dramatically in an instant. If mana is also found in the heart, and here are the hero suspects, then just going to the Magic Academy is not enough. Here John goes back to the mage, at least to show something, but the mage is doubtful, however listens and watches carefully. The guy concentrates and then ruthlessly materializes a fire orb in one hand, after which he uses a second spell to materialize a water orb in the other. After demonstrating this trick, John boldly stops casting both spells in a quick motion. He explains to the mage that he only recently started doing this successfully because everyone present is in a state of severe shock. The boy? Did he realize that? But not really. Never. The magician then casts a spell and asks John again, looking at him with tan eyes. The hero realizes that brain-reading magic helps detect lies by reading biological reactions, such as heart heaven. The magician points out that if the boy lies, he and his family will lose their heads. In addition, even his neighbors will be fooled. John easily repeats that he has no reason to lie. The magicka laughs. Well, it seems this guy really can't hide. He seems to have told the truth. At this moment, he hears a scream near the tent. Ion suddenly turns over, and a thought appears in his mind that it seems to be his mother. He jumps out of the tent and a horrible scene happens before his eyes. The hero is in shock. One of these soldiers is stalking his beloved mother. The girl tries to remove her hand and asks him to stop it all, but the man is not paying attention. Vanessa has been a wife for 7 years and probably doesn't mind what's going on. In fact, the girl should be grateful that the soldier took an interest in her. Directly following the hero, everyone else comes out of the tent. The commander immediately asks what's going on here. The soldier tenses up, at which point the woman quickly pulls out her hand. Oh, nothing much, just some low-quality stuff lying around. Tent. And John is just pissed. What a gift that monster is to talk like that about his mother. But the hero stopped at the magician. He seems to know what to do. He speaks calmly of John's abilities. Now he and his family are noblesse oblige. The soldier must realize that being charged with such a crime would be very hard. The man will be immediately recognized as a criminal and will be kicked out without trial. The soldiers behind him are already ready to draw their swords. Scandal at once admits the mistake. He rises to his knees crying for forgiveness from the hero, and John answers him with irritation. It is not he who needs to apologize, but his mother. The soldier goes straight back to the woman, hiding with an apology. The mother looks at her son with will and gratitude, and then John decides to say something to this monster as a last speech. The hero wants him to tell his friends about the incident so they know what happens if they attack someone like his mom, Vanessa. The boy's eyes grow wide with joy at the man and promises that he will release this. The soldier understood everything and is grateful for the forgiveness. After that, Ion approaches the mage. He is very grateful for such actions. Really? To which the other responds that the church must protect her mages. Then the mage questions the commander. He must make sure the boy is safe. Soon they talk through the magical orb. The commander understands everything. Let the boy follow them. He will be taken to the house where the princes will stay. He will be safe there. Ion will take his mother in his arms and thank the captain. He will also support the magician in forgiveness. Vanessa immediately asks the hero if he's a magician now, and the cute little boy seems to answer. The magister from the tent will graciously support the hero in forgiveness with a smile and self-reflects. Because of this boy in the pot and Ivor's palace, it's obvious that he's going to be pretty comfortable because he just has incredible abilities for such a young age. Time flies by unnoticed and night falls over the city. A slightly drunk man is walking down the street. Turns out to be the same soldier. Shit, how could it be that this little boy was fooling him like that? And at that moment, someone appears behind the soldier in a cloche. John pulls out a paralysis on the man. The soldier is scary, and the kid starts talking. What was he calling his mother there? He warned him that he would be watching him, and the guy seems deeply disturbed. John is now going to tell him what's going to happen next. He was universalized from Cook's son, after which he died of grief due to alcohol. Then he fell on a bridge over a river and died by accidentally falling off it. Yes, the hero questioned whether he should stay that way. His entire past life had been devoted to learning magic in the dragon language, and he had made a promise to himself. If he could go back in time, he would not commit acts that would lead to the death of humans. But that proved impossible. His hands never seemed to get away from the blood of scandals. The only thing John honestly wants is to protect his loved ones. To do so, he is willing to do anything, even at the cost of new blood. So he asks not to be forgiven. It was this phrase that Ragna told before John was killed. And it seems like the hero now understands why his head almost explodes. The hero didn't expect the paralyzed spells to consume almost all of his mana. John returns home and calmly opens the door and steps inside. He notices his sleeping mother and remembers his past life. After a year of studying at the Magic Academy, he and Anna were recognized as first-class magicians. That same year, Vanessa became seriously ill and died, never seeing her son, who became a magician. But this time, the boy won't let that happen. He will do anything to make sure Vanessa lives a long and happy life. He will do anything to make sure he doesn't lose his loved ones this time. A huge, luxurious finger is placed in front of him. This is the main church of the Empire, the Greenarium. In it, Emperor Terry asks Master Creator for his opinion. Nothing is known yet, perhaps he will come up with something. The 5th class mage, Havert Leon, answers him. The man asks to continue, and the mage continues. John circulates through the ships. A person becomes a mage when they understand how to control it at will. This is usually learned in the academy. This was the case with the Creator's Master and other mages as well. However, this boy was independently releasing magic, and his current abilities are the same as a first-grade first mage. Once there was a first mage who had to release his powers on his own. He taught spells on his own. That's the legend that circulates among mages. Terry remembered the story. The first mage was a creature dedicated to dragons. Hart replies that the existence of dragons was not conclusively confirmed at the time. But with no doubt about the existence of the first magician, someone had to have started magic. Well, for today, it's hard to believe Verificer's words. Guardian has to realize it personally, but it's unbelievable that the mage sent to Morrigan is lying. Therefore, we can say this with certainty. The boy is quite dangerous. Terry's idea of a knock on the door. Is that him? The prince who came? Well, let him come in. The door opens and a handsome young man walks through the door.
Hayden Trinriver.
The Emperor's star prince. His father apologizes to him for waiting for him, but the prince is more worried about why he called him. And the Emperor reminds his son that he hasn't stayed on Earth in 5 years. Now it is time to return to this world again. The man will present his son with 2 princes, 300 soldiers, and 3 third-class mages. The boy must go to the village of Morrigan and bring back a boy named John Page. But the prince doesn't realize who the little guy is. The Emperor is surprised. Well, better send another prince. Hayden quickly gets rid of all doubts from his father. He's definitely up to the task. He could be trusted. The Emperor stepped up and accepted his consent. But in this case, the boys must begin preparations at once. We have to go north. It will take time. Trin understood everything and immediately went to fetch the order. The Creator's Master must leave as well. But before he does, Terry wants to know if the man will prepare his men. Mages, for the most part, don't like long routes. Hart must believe them, and he must start now. Then perhaps when they leave, someone will agree. The Emperor will agree completely with the magic. He can leave. The door closes behind the older man, and the servant immediately begins to wonder if he plans to return. But the answer was negative. First of all, Hart wants to visit the place. John is waiting for a reply from the church and the finger. He remembered the words of that magician. Since the news of his relic was announced so quickly, it means that they immediately told it to the high priest. Everything is going according to plan. The Emperor is probably looking for mages to join them to the prince. Even though the palace master, the 5th class mage, has already quarreled with the 5th prince, he also needs people. Very soon, one of them must come to him. John understands his election. He can join the Emperor, the palace, or choose the third choice completely. But they can't use him this time. By the way, in the apartment, the mage is preparing to use the orb. However, he contacts John unexpectedly, scaring the boy badly. The young man announces that the hero has been invited to do the Emperor's bidding, but John doesn't understand what order he is supposed to follow. They arrived so suddenly and quickly. The hero opens the door and sees the inspector in front of him. Bear immediately guesses that the Emperor sent him to John. But first he must learn the necessary rules of the government. The boy, of course, agrees. He immediately demonstrates how to be supported by the Emperor. And frankly, the Magister wondered a bit. Did the boy do it all on the first try? Well, then it's time to declare order. The sphere begins to measure the bright moon, and then repeats the Emperor's voice. The boy recognizes John's talent and officially records his name in the magician's register. This registration belongs to the registrant to the court of Ivry. The Emperor also sends his son with him to the finger. The hero listens carefully, but also realizes how obvious their motives are. The magic would end. That was the rule of his magic. The princes begin their business at once. He stands up and one of the princes approaches him. It is Captain Morgan Arnold of the army. He will join the boy to the pot. The hero takes one last look at his house, and the party ends. In the finger, Lord Morgan Marcus Morgan notices that the heroes are on their way. This man is paying attention to his children. They must believe respectfully in mage. And so the carriage comes. The hero and his girlfriend come out of it. It's amazing. Elon Page is such a powerful mage at such a young age. He clearly has a special power, as even the Emperor has taken an interest, and it's definitely worth making contact with the boy. The Lord smiles and greets the Bear Emperor. There was a real commotion in the church. The bears were just talking about infancy. He's a real talent, and he's been practicing without rest for 2 weeks now. Yes, that's exactly what John is doing. He's focusing and unashamedly freezing the entire training floor. But the hero isn't satisfied. It's too little for him. In his past body, he was capable of freezing an entire pan. Now his body is too small. He has no mana, and something must be done about it. Suddenly, someone relates to the hero, a certain man. He asks for help since the Lord has disappeared. The boy hesitates. In what sense has he disappeared? The servant continues. The Lord went to hunt for goblins, but did not return. His guards and Mr. Ravi have also disappeared. The attendant looked everywhere but couldn't find anyone. There were hardly any signs, John thought. It was too soon for the Lord to perish. Citizen Morgan Marquez Morgan would die near the first war of annihilation. It would be like slavery for an assassin from an enemy country, and his son would leave the city. The boy will pay for it with his life. Ion doesn't understand why the servant is asking for his help instead of Morgan Marquez. In his past life, the Lord loved to hunt, so it is unbelievable that something would happen to him. The servant replies that Lord Morgan Marquez has stayed behind on an important errand. Ion is a bit surprised that the magic in charge could have left the province he was sent to. It seems to have something to do with his appearance. Resigned Master allows you to leave the city only in rare cases. The most likely case is that a person has been sentenced to the Master of the Creator, and the conversation will be about the hero. He doesn't know it could happen, but his primary weapon is knowledge of the future. If something does happen to the god, the hero will immediately lose his advantage. The boy wonders where he should go. He is ready to seek out the god and restore everything to its governmental state no matter what. The hero was about to leave when his mother stops him. Vanessa heard that the boy was going to seek the Lord. She's worried about him. Could be dangerous and John is still so young. The boy smiles and says he will be fine. He takes his mother in his arms and promises to come back. But then the girl takes off down the hall, the little girl crying and begging to find her father. The girl promises to ask the Lord for money, land, and servants, and the boy sees a mirror on the girl's arm. Is this true? John promises to find Marquez in the blink, but otherwise he asks to be given a ring. That sounds like mana. It will definitely help in the search. The girl immediately hands it over to the hero, and whoever places it in his hand feels a noticeable increase in mana. This item is familiar from Elan. It is a Morgan ring, a low-quality artifact that increases the wearer's mana. Perhaps the Lord didn't trust it to its owner, but to his daughter? From the bottom of his heart, he asks that he find his father, interrupting his thoughts, and after that, of course, that he return the ring. Is this not a gift from the Lord? Now the ornament helps the hero recover mana a lot, and he suddenly turns into a guard and they go ahead. The soldiers bring John into the forest. There are destroyed monsters lying on the ground, and blood drops everywhere. This is where the end of the track comes. The hero asks if the victims have been found, but no, the soldiers found none. Perhaps the monsters took them with them. The hero asks. It was obvious that there were over 100 animals. Marcus must be found as soon as possible before it was too late. A bright light immediately begins to emanate from the mock. Everyone present is simply in a daze. Is he trying to summon the spirit? And here it is. A small wolf cub appears in the clearing. Is this some kind of joke? The hero does not understand. In his past life, the wolf was enormous. It seems that the current mana supply does not allow the puppy to manifest in full size. The hero points to the blood and asks the wolf cub to take the trail. It sniffs and quickly takes off. John addresses the soldiers. They must follow him. At the same time, on the rooftop, Lord Marcos is fighting goblins. There seems to be no end to them. The monsters attack again and again. The same fate awaits the Lord when he dies in this place. The man will call his son. The child must return to the castle while the Lord holds the monsters. The child must report everything. There are too many goblins here for the Morgan Mountains. It's very dangerous here. The boy literally paces with fear. The boy does not want to leave his father's side. Turning around, the goblin lumbers toward Lord Marcus from behind. His son almost can't wait to prompt his father, but it seems to be too late. It is unlikely that Lord Marquez will make it through today after all that has happened. He's very surprised by what's happened. Who was that? And finally, he noticed the boy. Is that really him? And he tries to say something, but he can't hear anything else. The Lord will pass out. Margarita's voice brings the man out of the cloud. The girl looks at her father with tears of happiness. He asks her what happened, but the girl couldn't hold back her tears. She screams and replies that Marquez was saved by John. Lord Marquez and Ravi were unconscious for 2 whole days. During this time, Margaret was very much agitated. Suddenly, the door opened and a servant entered the room. At last, his lord came to his realization. Lord Marquez asks what happened to the others, but unfortunately, the 2 soldiers and the villain were unable to return. The attendant reports that Morgan has asked about this mage. Butler immediately promises to fetch him, and now the man is already meeting John on the street. The attendant informs the boy that the Lord asks him to come to his chambers. Marquez wants to talk to him. The hero finds the Lord and asks about his health. It's going to be okay. Marcus wanted to personally thank his hero for saving him. The Lord's son also laughed. John literally saved the ruler. The boy also destroyed mountains of monsters. Marcus can't bear it. As a token of gratitude, the man gives the boy a small box and asks that he open it. John can't believe his eyes. It's a mana ring. Marcus overhears the young man feeling mana in his daughter's ring. She had been in their family for a long time, but the Lord was unaware of her power. The ring was a huge help to the hero, wasn't it? John explained how it happened and what his advantage was in the battle. Well, Lord was glad to hear that. Now this mirror belongs to a young magician. Let him consider it a mark of diversity, but the hero is a little unclear in what sense it is a mark of diversity. Then the Lord explained that from that day to today, the hero was recognized as the Morgan family's eternal guest. So John accepts his gift. The Major invests in the ring, an eternal gift. This is millennial annual pledge that every great emperor must honor. Marquez continued. His family will always be happy to see him and ready to help him in times of need. The Lord and his son promised that this name and promise would be passed down from generation to generation as long as their family lived in the south of the Emerald River. Oh well. A little while later, John was walking through the woods with the soldiers. The hero asked the captain how far they were from the village of Lloyd. The man cheerfully replied that they were almost there. The major remembered and recalled asking the Lord if there were any alchemists in the province. The ones who could make elixir. He replied that there was an alchemist named Ledio living in the north of the village of Lloyd. He is original from capital, but moved specifically to gather special mushrooms. Well, the man had never met him in his past life. At least now he will help make an elixir to restore the missed mana. Immediately, the soldier asks the major and the captain to take a look at what's going on because the entire town is now under fire. John's eyes spread. He was literally surprised by what he saw. At the same time, the crew captain immediately went to his sword. These are slaves. Their weapons are covered in the blood of ordinary people. They want to take some kid to Lockwood. His father attacks the attackers, but is immediately hit in the face with his sword. This happens because he was too talkative, as one of the bastards pointed out. The bad boy screams as he tries to get away from the pull and help his father. This teeth pull irritates the leader of the traps. This boy will only die after his father dies, and the boy, in tears, watches the scene as the trappers pull out a sharp and long knife. The leader will lead the boy to a better place and the father can rest in peace. The son screams loudly, unable to do anything. But suddenly, an icy thing comes through the trap. Through his tears, he doesn't realize that just happened. All the trappers panic, not realizing what the hell is going on. But then one of the men noticed a young man on the mountain. John pulled out his ice guns on the criminals. The panic continues. All through the forest, shy cries of pain and fear are heard. After battling the slaves, the young magician climbs the mountains, where he sees the city. Well, it looks like the ring has really helped him. It seems that with its help, John has risen to the level of a third-class magister. At the same time, they fight a follower of the slave battle in the city. Many are crying for their loved ones. The captain turns into a master, but the hero stops him and asks if they have any wounded among the people. However, thanks to John's actions, there is none. It's cool to hear something positive, but now there's something else that's bothering him. Is this man alive? But John hesitates and shouts, trying to bring the very person wounded by the leader back to consciousness. Magic quickly approaches the wounded man and asks him to check himself. But as soon as John looks at the wounded man, he immediately loses the ability to speak. White skin, seemingly without blood, and green caps in his hair. Could it have been alcoholism? Another name for this disease is the curse of God. There are people in whom alcoholism is present only in the brain, which consistently stimulates it and causes pain, unable to circulate and be pulled from the body. In this condition, the person spends every second of his life until death. The man wouldn't have been able to penetrate mana into his body on his own. It must be the work of an evil mage, and his condition seemed to have worsened. John places a hand full of mana on the wounded man's head. There is only one way to improve the pain. Remove the remains of the stagnant mana and take new mana. Mega did just that, and the man visibly felt better. He cries hard, this time because of the pleasure. John gets up and asks him to check the wounds. He is grateful again, and they do as warned. The junior magister is already just walking away, when suddenly someone grabs his hand. The girl is only interested in one thing. Will she tell him that his father is really improving? The hero doesn't want to fool him, so he warns that the effect will be short-lived. What? John Deed only improves the symptoms but doesn't cure the disease completely. The girl is very upset. Does that mean his father will feel bad again? But the only thing known is that this man has to choose between constantly getting mana or dying. Crying wells up in the boy's eyes. If that is the case, the boy will confidently warp Rander's flora and save his father. Douglas quickly leaves, but someone yells after the child, asking where he's gone. And John is very surprised when he hears that name. Douglas, yes, that's the name belonging to the greatest alchemist in Imperial history. In the future, he would become the Imperial alchemist known as Douglas Heyman. Based on his general attitude, he managed to reach a high position. At that time, his objects of hatred were mages. It is now clear why an alchemist in love with mana follows a mage and the magic flower that grows in the north. This flora does have an effect on neutralizing magic, but other than that, it is a powerful evil. Casts a boost spell on itself and, supported by the boy, blocks its path. He tries to convince the boy that the robbers may still be running out of town, but the child refuses to listen. If he takes his time, his father, and without completing the sentence, John uses a sleep spell on the boy. He slowly and quietly passes out, still repeating something about the flower, and finally Douglas falls asleep, lazing against the mage's shoulder. John cries with joy. It's a very good thing he's made it over time. That's right, if you don't consider age, this boy looks a lot like Douglas from his past life. If magic hadn't arrived in time, the boy's father would have been killed and his son would have been caught. However, it was Douglas who prepared the evil that killed John. He was conscious of Ragnar's plans and acted on his orders. Maybe it would be better to cut everything off at the root now. No, hasty decisions could backfire for John. Douglas is so talented that he has risen from humble beginnings to the status of Imperial Alchemist. It might be better to lure him to our side. But where are the guarantees that he won't betray us if the wizard frees him from slavery? But suddenly, John calls out to the captain. He immediately set off in search when he learned that the wizard had suddenly disappeared, and in the blink of an eye, the knight's gaze fell on the child. The boy acted recklessly and had to be put to sleep, John explained. And since the captain has come, he should take the child to the village. But won't the wizard come with them, the captain wondered. No, John needs to go somewhere. A cool night has descended upon that very village. But the light remained on in the room. The father, having regained consciousness, asked the boy if he was asleep. Douglas replied tersely that he was not. The man was told about the wizard who had saved them. The father also knows that they have embarked on something reckless, and he promised that he would help find the flower mentioned in the boy's dream. The idea, of course, did not please the man, as there could still be bandits nearby. Douglas jumps up on the bed and cries out in fury. What was he supposed to do? Max said that his dad would continue to be sick. The father sighs. The boy shouldn't worry so much about him. But what can be done? Douglas has been searching for the flower for over a year, so how can Max manage to do this? Suddenly, their dialogue is interrupted. The man asks who has come. The guy on the other side of the door was informed that they need the Randiora flower. In that case, the father opens the door. Upon entering, Max removes his hood and greets everyone inside. The boy sitting on the bed immediately remembers him. But the father wonders, could this really be the same Max? Ian Page introduces himself by name and places the item he found on the table. Is this really the Randiora flower? Max is ready to give it up, but in return, he needs to get an answer to his question. How do they know about the effect of the flower? Well, the thing is that the head of the family simply read about it in the directory. The man places a book on the table in front of him. It was given to him by his father. Let John take a look here and there. It only grows in the north and can neutralize mana. It has 12 dark-colored petals. The green leaves and stems of the flower are extremely poisonous. The flower wilts immediately upon being picked. Therefore, cultivating and harvesting the flower is impossible. The wizard is curious if their father was also an alchemist. Turns out that alchemy is their family business, as is the book. So, hearing this, John wants to warn that for a wizard with 2 types of mana, the poison of this flower is deadly. The father understands what is being discussed, but in their family, they have never made elixirs capable of harming living beings. The man is ready to put his hand on the honor of his lineage, the Hammonds. John doesn't quite believe the words, but he thanks him for the answer. There is something else. He lifts the flower, melting the icy cage, and it instantly withers in his hands. He apologizes as he cannot be transformed. Max only wanted to preserve his form by freezing him. Lady O was surprised. Could it be that the guy had lied to them? But John only wanted to prove that he could find the flower. Therefore, he proposes a deal. He will supply the man with mana and he will stop being dependent on his illness. The hero will also find a way to use the flower in medicine. There must be records somewhere, as Douglas and Ragnar somehow came to this in their past life. Well, in return, Lady O will go with him to the capital. But the man does not understand why, and for what reason he is. The thing is, John needs elixirs for himself and his sick mother. But the wizard can hire any alchemist he wants. Lady O is clearly not the best candidate, and John calmly responds to a logical question. He needs an alchemist who can move with him and create elixirs specifically for him. Douglas ran into the forest, thinking of nothing but saving his father. Therefore, the wizard is confident that Lady will make the right decision for the good of her child. Yes, the man sees that John is clearly not so simple, but in that case, he needs time to think. The young man understands this perfectly and agrees to wait. In this life, Douglas has not lost his father and has not become a slave. Ian Page will do everything to prevent the boy's talent from falling into Ragnar's hands. And so, the next morning arrived in the village, the captain addresses the wizard and reports that everything is ready for their departure. Ian Page glanced heavily at the alchemists. He is a bit pensive today, but what can be done? Well, they can start to move forward little by little, the young wizard reported. Are they still not ready? But suddenly the door of the house opens, and out come the father and son, ready for the journey. And what decision did they make? John asked as he approached. Well, there's no point in refusing, the father began, since his life depends on the mage after all. But he also adds that John must keep his promise. The mage simply smiles in response. Of course, he will do everything. Suddenly, Douglas asks his question. Can the hero really heal his father? John nods good-naturedly. He gives his word. The child sincerely rejoices and eagerly asks if he can call the mage captain. What? Captain? Well, if the kid wants it so much, John just can't refuse him. After all, he used to think that Douglas had been a jerk since birth. The heartfelt conversation is interrupted by a soldier who has arrived in a hurry. They need to rush and set off. The prince has already crossed the Kumos River, and John is surprised. The prince is already so close. That's right. The garrison was informed about this earlier in the morning. So why does the mage find out last? The young wizard quickly heads to his horse. He will borrow it for a short time. John doesn't quite understand how to handle the saddle, but he is confident that they will get along. Approaching closer, the mage touches the steed and uses taming. A spark of mana ignites in the horse's eyes. John somehow communicates that he needs to go to the provincial castle. The horse knows the way. The beauty obediently lowers herself, allowing the hero to climb onto her. Meanwhile, the mage asks Captain Arnold not to forget to pick up Mr. Lidio. He will go first. Meanwhile, the prince and his entourage are already traveling through the forest. The young man recalls a conversation with his father. The king gave his son several tasks. The master of the tower, Havert, has been actively communicating with the fifth prince lately. Since many aristocrats listen to him, it must be important for the prince to have Havert on his side. The king is confident that Ragnar will use the mage to secure worthy allies for himself. Therefore, the son must ensure that Aeon Page stands on his side, and this must happen before the ivory tower can take any action. The mage needs to be lured away at any cost. He will be a great asset for the prince. He sighs heavily, recalling this dialogue. Damn, Aeon may be a mage, but he is still just a child. What use is he at all? Besides, all mages are subordinate to the ivory tower. Why would he switch sides to the prince? Why did the master of the tower choose Ragnar in the first place? When he becomes emperor, he will definitely remove everyone who deliberately ignored him. A terrifying horse addresses the prince. The second captain of the Imperial Knights, Oliver Raywood, believes that at least now, a message should be sent to the castle of Morrigan. The prince remarks with boredom that they seem to have already discussed this, but the captain is sure that it will definitely take time to prepare for their arrival. The prince decides to change the subject. Maybe that way he will leave him alone. The captain's family lives not far from Morrigan, right? Then, how much further do they have to travel? Oliver Raywood replies that they need to be on the road for about 2 more days. The prince smiles in response. Well, then the captain can send them a message. He wants to see how the Northern Guards and the shields of the Empire will receive the august personage. The captain was not pleased with such treatment, but what could he do? It was his duty. Meanwhile, Oliver Raywood thanks the prince and begins to carry out the order. After receiving the news, there was a real commotion in the castle. Marcus demanded that not a speck of dust be in the room. And why wasn't he warned earlier? He did not expect such a quick visit. By the way, what about the other families? Have they arrived? The butler replied that almost everyone has come. The Megfidons and Raywood will be here soon. But what about Mac? Is there any news from him? Marcus asked, no, not yet, and that's bad. The guard reports that His Majesty the Crown Prince has arrived. His retinue has already stepped onto the territory of the castle. After a while, the carriage finally stops, and the prince himself steps out. A man standing next to the duke nervously asks, "Where is the mage?" But the sad lord is already about to respond when the quick sound of hooves is heard. It is him. The majestic horse stops right in front of Marcus. Poor John clearly did not enjoy this ride, but he still finds the strength to apologize for being late. The hero is overjoyed at the return of the hero, while the others quietly whisper behind their backs. Is this little one really the mage? Marcus places his hand on John's shoulder. Since the Emperor's order was addressed personally to him, he should stand in front of everyone. The young mage comes face to face with the prince. The prince addresses him with a single question. Is he Aeon Page? Yes, it has been a while since the prince has seen him. The mage manages to glance over and see what is happening with the prince. The girl from the group looks at him and smiles kindly. Her name is Cecilia. She is a spy for the Coldwood Empire. And so the evening arrives. At the ball, the prince is addressed by his captain. His Majesty should know his limits. Well, what can you do? The only food here is wine, he replies melancholically. The prince does not understand why he even traveled such a distance. It is so boring, and he did not like the mage. The guards silently observed. He wished he could go rest soon. Not far from the group, Cecilia stood alone with a glass of wine in her hand. The girl thinks that the Emperor's task has become increasingly strange lately. Why does he even need this boy? The fact is, a few days ago, she received 2 orders. First, verify whether the rumors about Iowan are true, and if so, kidnap him along with his mother and deliver them to Cudwood. What is so special about him anyway? Alright, I need to find out. Cecilia goes outside to find the mage. And here he is in fact. First, it's worth checking what the boy is capable of. Cecilia instantly casts low-level magical arrows. They crash to the ground with force in the blink of an eye. The girl is perhaps a little surprised. Did he set up a shield? Yoan was distracted from his tasks, so he seriously asks who she is. And what does he think of himself? The girl replies to him with a slight smirk. She is actually also a mage from the Ivory Tower. She just came to say hello. That's how everyone greets each other there, attacking from behind. Yoan asked calmly. Cecilia is a bit puzzled by such a question. Let him watch his tongue first. The girl is actually older, which means she should be treated with respect. However, the young mage abruptly interrupts Cecilia, addressing her by name. The girl is greatly surprised by how he knows her name, and even her last name. Who the hell is he anyway? Of course Iowan would know. All the spies from Cudwood are given that surname. The mage can name everyone who works with her. Iowan slowly begins to approach the girl and speaks. Yal, the stable master of Molten. Robin, the Emperor's secretary. Ario, a soldier of the 9th Squad. Cecilia listens in horror to the mage, but he just continues. Isabel, a maid in the palace. Ah yes, she hasn't become one yet. The girl knows that they are all connected. Yoan is certainly aware of this, and the girl sighs, and immediately flames ignite around her, while in her hand, Cecilia creates a powerful fireball. She has no idea how the boy knows so much, but he would be better off pretending to be ignorant. Cecilia throws a powerful fireball, but at the spot where Yoan stood, a bright flame erupts. Is that all? But not so fast. The young mage appears not far from the girl. He is the only one who knows about them. In Iowan's hand, a bright shining orb has formed. Cecilia does not understand why he did not report everything. Although what is much more important for her now is to understand why the hero is unharmed at all. What the hell? Mac raises the sphere above his head. He knows it too, and the girl's gaze turned upward. A true horror appeared in her eyes. A huge number of icy needles immediately falls on the girl. He knows why Cecilia is searching for him. Max, with a cold gaze, unleashes icy spears upon the poor girl. Cecilia barely manages to set up a mana barrier, but it seems too weak, as cracks appear all over its surface. The girl slowly but surely falls into a panic. At that moment, Yoan creates a huge fireball. With the same calmness, he unleashes it upon the poor girl. Things are bad. Cecilia cannot attack while maintaining the barrier. But if she doesn't dodge now, she will simply perish. It seems she will have to take the risk. Cecilia lowers the barrier and rushes to run, but the icy needles wound her severely. She barely manages to escape the powerful explosion. God, is she really alive? The girl collapses to the ground in exhaustion. Owen must have used up all his mana. People will be running here soon. It's good that the mage has no compromising information on her. Even if he says something, no one will believe him anyway. Even the Ivory Tower will be on the girl's side. But for now, she should first restore her strength. And Iowan has come very close. He is still smiling. The girl realizes that he could easily expose Cecilia at any moment, even right now. And Tailish laughs. Is he really that overconfident? But Yoan has evidence that even the Cudwooders are unaware of. Cecilia is angry and does not believe a single word he says. But suddenly, someone approaches from the side. The guards have arrived, and the captain doesn't even have time to ask what happened before the girl's ally rushes to her aid. And Iowan, as if nothing happened, replies that he did it. The soldier asks the boy to explain himself. Well, the mage recounts that he saw a girl talking to some masked man. But Cecilia is just in shock, wondering what this little brat is even talking about. Ian continued, upon seeing the young man, the group immediately tried to kill him. Clear. Understood. So the hero was just defending himself. But how can the guy prove his words? They were both checking something on each other's bodies. Ian noticed. He believes they were marks. The commander is surprised. He definitely understood something. The guard immediately demands to inspect the girl. But her colleagues from the tower come to her defense. Doesn't the captain see that he is crossing all permissible boundaries? Does he not trust the mages from the tower? But the knight is unyielding? The guy immediately draws his sword and points it at the mage. The air prince is here, and the incident occurred here as well. Therefore, the captain needs to find out what happened and how it is related to the mages of the tower. A colleague asks to at least be allowed to heal the girl at the beginning, but the captain refuses. First, an inspection. Cecilia is clearly very unhappy with what is happening, but after the inspection, nothing suspicious was found. The mages immediately pointed out their correctness and rushed to heal the poor girl. Meanwhile, the guard casts a glance at the hero. Did he really lie? But Iwan insists that he did not. Everything he said was the truth. Therefore, he approached the girl and placed his hand on her back. Immediately, a blue light begins to seep out. Cecilia does not understand what this is. Damn it. Or at least, she is just pretending. The mages standing nearby were simply in shock because a mana mark had appeared on the girl. Cecilia was angry. What is that boy even doing? Owen saw how they were running their hands over that area of the body, apparently checking for marks. All cold walkers are sent to training camps where they are marked. Only the trainers know about it. In a past life, after a year of torture, one of them broke and told Iwan about this. The captain turns to the mages. They know what the mark is, but they are seeing it for the first time. What about Iwan? And he has no idea what it means either. The knight pondered, meaning that no one knows what this mark is, but it clearly indicates something greater. In any case, the girl needs to be healed now, and they will conduct the interrogation later. The captain orders the mages to prepare the manaterma for the girl. After that, the knight turns to Iwan. If it turns out that the boy is right, the man will definitely tell his highness about it. The prince is genuinely astonished. The boy defeated a third-class mage. Who would have thought? And what is Oliver's impression of the young boy? The captain believes that Iwan is indeed different from all the mages he has seen before. His speech and behavior are not like those of ordinary people. Well, it seems the prince needs to meet him in person to confirm this. He requests that the boy be brought immediately. Oliver promptly carries out the order. After a while, Iwan bows upon arrival. Was he summoned? Yes, that's right. The thing is, the prince heard that Iwan discovered a spy from Coldwood all by himself, and then he even achieved victory over her. Although she was a high-class mage, it was a worthy victory. For a mage, to be honest, it is an honor to hear such praise from the prince. He smiles good-naturedly. The hero deserves his reward. If there is a specific request, he can voice it, but Iwan immediately understood that the prince wants to test how greedy he is. However, since he himself suggested refusing, the mage has no intention of doing so. Iwan asks the prince to allow him to take a look at the ruins of the old ivory tower on the way to the castle. The prince is puzzled. What ruins? What could possibly be interesting about them? But the mage replies that in his childhood, he was told stories about them. That is why he wanted to see everything with his own eyes. Iwan could have asked for anything, yet he wished for such a trifle. Although, what can you expect from a child, the prince thought. Alright, they will stop there on the way. Iwan smiled. It was as easy as pie. Under the ruins of the old tower, there is a dungeon where a book of dragon spells is hidden. It is written in the dragon language, which played a key role in the study of temporal magic. Such a manuscript cannot be found anywhere else. In his past life, Iwan discovered it shortly before his death, but he was never able to fully understand it. Iwan smiles nostalgically. How much new information will he be able to learn this time? Iwan is riding in a carriage with his mother. The lady is happy, as they are going so far for the first time. Mac cannot help but agree with the words of his beloved mother. Also, in the carriage is Lidio with his son. The man is trying to charm Vanessa. The girl definitely needs to take a tour. After all, he has lived in the capital for a long time. The mother sincerely thanks him for such an offer. But Iwan does not understand what other excursions there could be. At that moment, someone knocked on the carriage. The knight reports that they have arrived. The second vice-captain of the Imperial Army, Paul. Before the heroes lie the very ruins of the towers. The knight says that they will stay here for a couple of days. His Majesty has allowed them to move freely around the territory. But first, they should be shown the place where they will be staying. John sees a small village. Its leader immediately approaches to greet him. It is a great honor for them to receive the Air Prince, and His Majesty responds kindly to the old man. The young mage observes what is happening from the sidelines. It seems the prince is behaving quite well with the common people. In his past life, he always appeared hostile and gloomy. Maybe it's all because of Ragnar? With other people not related to the village or nobility, the prince behaves differently. Now it is clear why the emperor wishes for him to be the successor. Douglas distracts John from his thoughts. When are they finally going to the ruins? Mac makes a confused face. What is the boy even doing there? Well, he just wants to take a look. All right, the basement only appears at dawn anyway. They can go together tomorrow. The boy was glowing with happiness. Could it really be true for him? He sincerely thanks Ian. It seems that the guys have become friends. This conclusion is drawn by the parents, observing what is happening. Lidio wants to ask Vanessa a question. Just one. Has Mr. John always behaved this way like an adult? After all, he is only 12. The girl looks away. Yes, the boy had to grow up early. He is just as good as his father. Vanessa feels guilty that John had to try to replace his father. Lidio pondered. Was her husband also a mage? Vanessa shakes her head. Fran was an ordinary man. Even before John's birth, he went to work and disappeared. 5 years later, his belongings were returned to them. Vanessa is restless. She does not understand. Recently, her son has clearly changed. The man, who does not understand, watches and waits for the continuation, but the girl quickly closes the topic. In any case, they will soon have to visit the ruins. As for whether John will be able to find the spell book, he will only find out tomorrow. You want part 2? Write the secret word in the comments. Mage. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give it a like. See you later and bye-bye.